really were just so beautiful because they grew out of their environment. I just want this tradition, like the Ganga, to just continue. We don't know who wove, who designed, but we've taken it for granted. And I felt that anonymity was so beautiful, and I felt that I need to be part of it and just help in passing the parcel. So that's how it sort of started. Because of a lot of industrialization, lot of this destruction of the natural fibers and natural resources. So apart from the fact that handloom weaving itself is really not even just the Indian heritage. It really is like the world heritage now. We are getting into the AI space, and I think it's even more important at this point of time that we are aware of what we need to preserve, what we need to take care of, so that the world actually remains a world which has a lot of natural things. We really need to look within ourselves a little bit more as well and do some introspection, because why is it that they are not at par with other products? Why is it that a Louis Vuitton bag, somebody is willing to spend that kind of money, which is really like a cookie cutter bag and being produced in? I think that the value of handwork actually comes only when you have yourself done even a little bit of work with your own hands. And the observation power, the aesthetics, they all develop much more when you are involved with it yourself.
Hi, welcome to the Mohua Show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur, and ex housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. So, hi, in today's episode, we have with us Chandra Jain, who's been deeply involved and associated with the crafts and craftspeople of India for over 3 decades. That's like really a whole lifetime. Her special interest has been in the handloom traditions of India. She's engaged in the revival of the traditional Banaras handwoven brocades, which she's going to tell us about. And she's also been an expert in this area. Also, she's the executive committee member of the Crafts Council of Karnataka. So, our guest today, Chandra Jain, has been at the forefront of championing traditional handloom weaving for over 3 decades. So, Chandra, thank you so much for joining us. So, let's just dive into the first thing about a little bit about how did you start getting involved in the crafts and handloom traditions of India? What made you want to become a voice and part and parcel of this, you know, arts and crafts that I think people during our times really took that for granted. And it's only now, I think, post pandemic, that people have become more aware of all of this and the conversations have begun. But for you, when did it start?
Uh, Actually, just so nice that you're asking me this question, Moa. And of course, thank you for asking me to join in and really appreciate that. Well, for me, it really is almost like in my blood. you know, I literally grew up with it because I come from a family where everybody was very involved. My grandmother and everybody was very involved with the freedom movement, and therefore handloom and khadi. These were like the conversations that we heard while growing up, and then seeing the things around us, also seeing very beautiful things which were being done at that time, which were of Indian origin. Of course, my grandmother, she only wore khadi, and right till the end, she only wore khadi, and everybody used to spin khadi at home. So I guess that, and then there was coming from a family where there was a lot of emphasis on the aesthetics. Like there was a lot of art, there was a lot of music, there was a lot of literature. So all these things around me, I think sort of that naturally just grew into loving India. And for me, India was really textiles and music and festivals and color. And, so I would say that it's just been there. and enjoyed wearing them growing up. Didn't have many, so borrowing from any wedding in the family, the aunts will open up their suitcases and they'll say, "Come on," So saw some very beautiful things. So just got, I think, quite used to seeing beautiful things. And for me, handloom is really the most beautiful all over India, not just Banaras, which I chose to work in, but initially it really was just a wonder and love for the handloom that was there all over the country. And I had huge exposures. Yeah.
So amazing because this is a subject very close to my heart. When I began my rebooting journey, I too began writing about the arts and crafts of India, which is, again, like you said, handloom, which I think from every part of India is really, really beautiful. It has the story of the artisan in it. So why did you choose Banaras handwoven brocade? What drew you especially to this kind of Indian textile tradition?
Yeah, that's really a very interesting story because since I grew up in Lucknow and in Allahabad, so I really saw very beautiful textiles which were woven in Banaras. But as I was growing up, I really didn't like them at all. I just found them very flashy. I thought that I used to see with my aunts and everybody else was so exquisite, and whatever was visible to me now wasn't really up to the mark. So I actually stayed away from Banaras. Even though I'm so fond of saris, I had all kinds of textiles. Yes, of course, my wedding sari was also Banarsi, but it was very difficult to find anything good in Banaras. I used to find it very flashy, very sharp, very crude, and didn't compare with what my eyes had seen. So it was interesting. I was coming back from Bangladesh after World Crafts Council conference, and I decided to stop by in Benares. And because I'd planned it, and I took some old samples with me, and I had already sort of done some research and met the master weavers there, a few of them. And when I showed them what I had, and I said, "Why don't you make things like this?" They said that, "Look, I thought the skills had gone." They said, "No, no, we can still make it, but there's no market for it because these become very expensive. This is very fine work." So uh, then I felt compelled to say that, "I think I would like to revive this. Why don't you do this? And I want to check it out whether these skills are still there." So the whole objective was at that point of time to try to revive the skills that were getting lost and the designs that really were just so beautiful because they grew out of their environment. There was a connect between the lifestyle, the work that was being done, and the environment around. So I started doing a bit of designing and getting them to do the work. And I said, "I'll design for you." Very soon they told me that, "Look, we're not interested in your designs because there's no market, they become very expensive. But if you want us to make for you, then we will do this." So I felt that, if this is what it requires, that somebody has to invest the time and effort and etc., then I, if the call is so strong, I need to do it. So that's how I really sort of started supporting their production, working along with them, and then keeping a small collection and then also telling them that, "Look, you must, because I'm not interested in scaling up or starting my label or anything. I just want this tradition, like the Ganga, to just continue. We don't know who wove, who designed, but we've taken it for granted." And I felt that anonymity was so beautiful, and I felt that I need to be part of it and just help in passing the parcel. So that's how it sort of started. And yeah, I told them, I said, whatever I'm doing with you, since I'm not wanting my own label, please share it, please show it. Because many people like me would also be thinking that these skills are gone, these can't be done. So perhaps that would be a good way, and explain why these are more expensive, why the techniques that we are using in them, what the names of the techniques are, how these are done, etc., etc. And that really helped, because so many terms which are just thrown around all the time right now, they were never used. After all, why were they not used earlier? And why is it that suddenly they are being used? So it's a question of somewhere somebody starts, and if it has value, it starts getting, it sort of starts all over.
So, Chandra, it must not have been easy for you to, start, revive a traditional art form that was already, going towards extinction. So, can you just tell us what are the kind of, challenges that you faced while, you were going ahead and starting this, and how did you overcome this?
Yeah, definitely it was very hard, because one was that, I was not getting into a business, so investment alone was huge. More than that, the reluctance, because when people are used to doing easy work, then to take on something which is more challenging is, you have to motivate them. So, since I said that, look, whatever you produce, that's for me, I will take it. So that helped, that they could not take the risk, and I had to then take that risk. Secondly, the challenge was huge, because, by the time I started doing this kind of work, uh, the whole issue of child labor had come in. And it was very hard for getting that very fine work done, which used to be done when they started teaching children very young. And the children, as part of their apprenticeship, develop those very fine skills and the flexibility of the wrist, the concentration, etc. And it was not there right now, so it was just that much harder. Plus uh, the raw material itself was becoming very expensive, and actually getting good silk. Earlier, they also used to get silk from China. Uh, See, mulberry silk in any case came from China, even in India. And we have done a lot of research, we've done a lot of development. Karnataka actually is the only state which produces mulberry silk. But because we were not investing enough into it, our silk was still quite knotted. So the kind of work that we wanted was more easy to do with the Chinese very fine yarn that used to come. But then that also stopped coming, and which was good, because why should there be dependency for something like that? So it was not the issue that the Chinese silk had stopped coming, but the challenge was how to make the silk really fine, to enable them to do very fine work. So that was there. And of course, the number of weavers just dwindling, continuously dwindling, because especially when I started, the situation was really bad. This was when I actually started my production work with Benares, it was just around the turn of the century. So I'd been doing a lot of work, research, and giving talks, and quite involved with textiles. But the actual production work that I started was around that time, and Banaras was like totally gone. So people were migrating, weavers were just leaving. There was no market for Banarsi silk. So these were very difficult times to sustain them. to create a new market for them. So it took a lot of, sort of educating even the buyer that why, and showing them. And then because they had also never seen anything like that, it was wonderful to see the response. But then the price was always a deterrent also.
So you also have a NGO called Kadambari, right? And so it's a beautiful name. I just love the name Kadambari. What inspired you to establish Kadambari, and what are its primary objectives and the initiatives that you've done with Kadambari?
Yeah, Kadambari actually has been absolutely a passion for me when I started it, because it's just so concerned that the beautiful things, the beautiful environment that I grew up in of the newly born India, even though we were all like post independence generation, but I think the the fragrance or the passion or the enthusiasm of nation building that was happening at that time was very much part of one's growing up years. And perhaps because so influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts and his approach of Swadesh and Swadeshi, and upliftment of the villages and etc. So it felt that there was a huge need to connect people, because everybody had already sort of started looking westwards a lot, and it seemed that one was keeping on looking at an identity, absorbing an identity which was really not truly one's own. And since we got all this because of our environment, I felt that if I start an NGO which focuses on crafts and activities of music and dance and as a non formal education, so then, and do it not as a hobby class, not at all. Those were not hobby classes at all. We called them workshops because they were really intense sessions that we would have. And do this by creating almost like a family kind of an atmosphere. So that's how we started. So, theater, music, crafts, folk dances of India, festivals of India. So these kinds of themes one took. And each workshop would sort of end with a presentation, a performance by the participants. And alongside doing appreciation sessions for the adults, and performances for the larger people, or inviting uh, outstanding professionals who were working with the Indian ethos and presenting them. So all this became part of Kadambari, and it's been an absolutely amazing journey with that. Yeah.
You've also been the executive committee member of the Crafts Council of Karnataka. So, how do you work towards preserving and promoting traditional crafts in the region?
Being part of the Crafts Council of Karnataka, naturally the focus is a lot more totally on Karnataka. And it has been, it was started by Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay and Lalita Ubaikar and Vimla Rangachar. So the path was actually quite clearly laid out that we're going to be focusing on that. So each time the executive committee, which is really there for a session of 2 years, of course, I've been fortunate to continue in it for many years and many things. So we focus definitely. We not only have exhibitions where we invite the artisans, especially from Karnataka, uh, to and then create a market for them. We also honor the outstanding craftspeople. We every year we have a Vishwakarma Award, which is for the young craftsperson, so that we search for that. Apart from that, we also do workshops with the artisans by going into that region where the craft is from, identifying which is the languishing craft, and then giving it that support
So,
and
could you name
training.
some of the languishing crafts that you have been involved in, in out of Karnataka that has benefited with the workshops that you have conducted?
Yeah, these workshops actually have been going on for many years. So even during my time with the Crafts Council, we have addressed pottery because that was beginning to go away. We have also addressed the metal, you know, metalware, which is from South Canada, and also puppetry. So these are the kind of things, plus grass weaving and also kasuti. There's so many that we are all involved with. So, I mean, I would sort of really list out all the crafts that we have because we've intervened almost everywhere, actually. Yeah.
How wonderful, Chandra. So, Chandra, you know what? You have mentioned that the textile industry represents a soft strength, for India. Could you just elaborate on what this means and why is it essential to preserve handloom weaving, in the face of so much of technological advancements? And there are a lot of power loom now where it reduces the time, in the production, of garments, right? And, I had the luck of visiting one small village in Karnataka, and there was a handloom that was completely lying forlorn with one old man sitting, dug into one ground with a blanket under him to sit down, and he was constantly going on and on. And there was another power loom that was close by where they were producing saris by the dozen. So, could you tell me a little bit about your thought process on this?
Yeah, actually, I understand. I definitely, all of us realize that for a country of this size, probably if you really want to do things in volumes, then power loom now is the option. Though there was a time when India not only clothed its entire population, but also exported a lot, and the world really wanted it. But those times have changed. However, because especially at this point of time when environment has become such a huge issue, we are constantly talking about climate. Look at Bangalore right now, the water issues, all these things are there. Now why is it happening? It's happening definitely because of a lot of industrialization, lot of destruction of the natural fibers and natural resources. So apart from the fact that handloom weaving itself is really not even just the Indian heritage, it really is like the world heritage now, because this is the only country where we still have so many handlooms. The skills that are there in the hands, it can never you can't compare the skills of the hands with what gets produced uh, repeatedly by the power looms or the machines. We are getting into the AI space, and I think it's even more important at this point of time that we are aware of what we need to preserve, what we need to take care of, so that the world actually remains a world which has a lot of natural things. I'm going away from what the question you had asked me, but see, the handlooms, apart from the fact that they are with natural fibers, they are not dependent on anything other than the hands of the weavers. And it's a collective work where the women, the children, everybody gets involved in the family. It leaves no carbon footprint. The power looms are now producing so much of polyester. Even what they're calling as cotton, because of the speed and the strength that the polyester yarn brings in, even the cotton has some little bit of polyester in it. It's been so difficult to find. I'll go around, look around for some cotton material for certain things, and you bring it home and you wash it, and you find that it still has polyester. So when you go to a handloom place and you get from there, which is where not necessarily it is that it is khadi. In khadi, even the yarn is hand spun. Handloom does not have to have hand spun yarn. That would be ideal if we had the hand spun yarn and it was hand woven. But again, because despite the fact that we have so much of unemployment, we have not created those opportunities for people who actually have those skills in the hands and could do all these kinds of things. So, uh, handloom is important because it's good for the skin, it's good for the environment, it decomposes, unlike the polyester, which does not decompose. It takes plastic, all this material, it takes, I don't know how, nobody is able to say at this point of time that how long will it take for it to really decompose, if it will at all. So you would agree that, I mean, handloom, which is the strength of India, which is valued everywhere, which values human skills and human beings, which is good for the environment, which is good for one's own health. Because when you wear natural fibers, they breathe and you don't get the skin diseases which come. So I would say that it's very easy to say that, easy to understand that why it is very good to have handlooms.
But a lot of youngsters in the family, of artisans, they don't want to continue this, and many of them, are going into cities for more lucrative opportunities, and it's really sad because sometimes an entire family tradition of doing, of keeping up an art can die with this. So, how does one encourage? Because there is such a gap between earning and life, and expenses. I mean, to me, it's just mind-boggling to think how would one, bridge this gap.
We really need to look within ourselves a little bit more as well and do some introspection. Because why is it that they are not at par with other products? Why is it that a Louis Vuitton bag, somebody is willing to spend that kind of money, which is really like a cookie cutter bag? And being produced in, I'm sorry, it may be a little apolitical to talk like this, but then I think that without even taking the particular label's name or anything, we are aware of the fact that so many things, it's because of the hype that we are creating, it's because of the marketing that is happening, that I think we've not done such a good job of promoting the value of the, whether it's the crafts or the handlooms, or doing the right value add for it to become more appealing for the people. Yeah.
So, can you just maybe talk a little bit about we've just spoken about how younger generations are leaving their traditional work behind. So there is also a misconception that handloom uses a lot of child labor, and how can we debunk this myth and raise awareness about the cultural and economic significance of handloom textile?
Yeah. The first question that you asked about, that people are leaving and going away from this, I think that it's actually because we have not really given them the sense of pride or the place of pride that they deserve. We, like even in the art scene, if we look at that, somebody we call artist and the craftsman is not really given that kind of status as an artist, even though he also is very creative and he starts getting used more by the others. So, one is that inculcating the sense of pride. If they have a sense of pride because they love doing what they do, and in any family, when you're growing up in that environment, you automatically learn also. Why is it that a lawyer's son wants to become a lawyer? Because he's more familiar with it. Very often, the doctor's son would be a doctor. So What's wrong in a weaver's son becoming a weaver? But if we have taken that value away from that and said that, look, you are not educated, you need to be do this, and you need to, go to a class like that, I think not realizing that we need to take some education or the literacy to them a little more. But the education that they are getting, the sensitization that they are getting, is actually very, very much more special.
So, do you think, Chandra, that it should become part of our mainstream education and society, where people need to know and need to understand the significance of tradition and integrating arts and crafts into our education system?
I definitely, totally, 100% believe in this because I think that the value of handwork actually comes only when you have yourself done even a little bit of work with your own hands. And the observation power, the aesthetics, they all develop much more when you are involved with it yourself. I'm sure that you also would have in earlier years somewhere, designed your own clothes and you still do that. You are selective, you do your own designing. Why do you do that? I mean, you can also just go and pick up something. But because you have that capability, because you're sensitized, you do that, and there's that much more joy in it that discerning eye is there. So I think that it's very important to have crafts. We i think there used to be crafts and music and arts in school curriculum. I don't know why in recent years it's been taken away, because even if you go to look at Germany, you look at uh, even in the US, music and arts and creative things are so much part of education. So by just uh, teaching children only things which are also only by rote memory, what are they doing? When we are they really helping the individuals to grow up as uh, good, sensitized, good human beings, or you're putting in aspirations in them which are leaving them maybe literacy and other things are coming in, but there is a bigger loss that's happening. And you talked about child labor. Again, because I think, we had started believing that export is the solution to all our problems. So when these things started going out, uh, there was from the Western lobby, this whole thing came actually about the child labor. Because in India, working with hands or helping your parents or doing what your parent is doing, whether in the farm or tending the cow or doing whatever, was never considered as child labor. You're just helping out your family and learning that skill as you're growing up. So when it came, then of course one got into it a lot more, and there is no denying that there were certain places that exploitation may have been happening, which happens. I mean, it's like if there is too much poverty, then using children may have happened. But then the solution to that is not that you take them away from it, but you understand the situation and make sure that there is good nutrition, there is time to play, there is also literacy or education given so that they have a choice. Just some children who may not want to do it because they don't like it, but there will be enough who will then continue to do and feel good about doing it. I'll tell you a story. It's really nice if you have the time. Uh, One story is that because I do these workshops, so we were talking about, that whether it should be there in education. So I was doing these workshops and I decided to do a terracotta and clay work workshop, which was before Deepavali. So I said, let's also make things which are used for Diwali. So the kids made their diyas and we made a kiln, so they were all fired and everything. And I said, we're going to have a Diwali Mela. This will be the culmination. We'll have a Diwali Mela just before Diwali. So before that, I took that entire whole lot of kids, about 20 of them, to the pottery town. And uh, they had, of course, been sitting, and I told them they'll do the pricing of their products themselves. So it took them there to get an idea. And then when they realized that at what price those things were being sold, they were horrified. They came and they said, look, but I put in so much effort. I'm not going to sell it at that price. We should not be buying it at that price. So, it was so beautiful to see that appreciation, and to see that how perfect those other diyas were compared to what they had done. So I think this kind of exposures, experiential exposures, are very important. And if we can bring them back into school, it would really make a huge difference.
Oh my God, you've really touched my heart while saying this, because I so agree with you that, the kind of prices that people sell their products for, they're not even aware of so many artisans that they come. And, I mean, just taking a cue from what you've said, that I remember during Durga Puja, they have a lot of pandals. I'm a Bengali and I'd gone to the pandal, and I found a person who had come from Bhagalpur carrying his Bhagalpuri silks. And, he had this little stall next to a dustbin, and people were eating, throwing their food around, just like, few, like a few steps away was the bin. And obviously, because he was language challenged, he could not speak Bengali or English very well. He was just willing to sell it off at such abysmally low prices that I stood in a corner and my heart just bled, Chandra. Because I've been to the interiors of Pulia, and I've seen, in West Bengal, as to what it takes for them when they are even making a small little bag that they make, with the cotton that comes out of Bengal. So I so agree with you. It would be wonderful to know from you a little bit about the difference, for our listeners, between natural dye and chemical dyes. What is the difference between the two?
Well, thank you so much for asking me this question, because right now I'm really passionately involved with these natural dyes. Natural dyes are what really comes from natural sources. They could be mineral, they could be vegetable, they could be flowers, so all the natural sources for getting these. And again, because out of the concern for the pollution that the chemicals are causing, uh, to the environment and also to our skins and everything, and polluting the rivers, etc. So there is a lot of awareness. The entire India there is awareness, but strangely, I realized that in Banaras there was just no natural dyes at all. And I felt that after all, in 19th till the 19th century, they were natural dyes only. So how come, the memory is also not there? And it would be really good now that the Banaras textiles have again also come into the forefront. And also, there is so much production happening. If we can somewhere at least create the awareness. So it was hard. So I did a workshop with another expert dyer in natural dyes, Jagda Rajappa. I was able to persuade her and take her along with me, and we did a 10-day workshop in Benares with 4 master weavers. And this was just before the pandemic. And then the pandemic came. And for them to, leave their work and work with us for 10 days, just morning till night, and pounding the flowers and, boiling the color. It's a beautiful process, but very time consuming and very laborious. So uh, they learned, they were very excited, but then what are they going to do with it? So again, it's a question of creating the demand. Unless we present it, we are able to show it that this is what the natural dyes are from Benares is ready for it also. It won't happen. So I decided that we will do a production and also do the designing differently so that it shows absolutely the best of skills of Banaras, the best of designs, and the colors. So we are trying to do that right now. And it's fascinating because from onion peel, from the skin of the pomegranate, from even from that parijata flowers, from mehendi, from mulberry leaves, from mulberry fruit. If I were to show you the colors, you just love them because they're just so uh, mellow, so soft, so beautiful. No? So I'm really hoping that this huge effort that they are putting in along with me, because it's literally like day and night weaving. They're taking turns and they're weaving them.
We wish you all the best, and the love for arts and crafts may continue forever and ever, and may all arts and artisans just find their place under the sun in a country as beautiful as India. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services: Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk imandari se.